Imagine waking up and living a life that felt actually like yours every single day. One that wasn't guided by expectations, opinions, or how you thought others might feel about what you were doing. What if you just didn't feel anxious about these things? What if you actually were excited about your life and felt like you were living it exactly how you were meant to and how you wanted to? That might mean going against the grain, not trying to fit in all the time. At the end of the day, the only person that is living your life is you. And so you should be living it exactly how you want to live it. So, does any of this sound familiar? If it does, then this is definitely the video for you. If you're ready to stop living for others and start learning how to live for yourself, we're gonna get into that in today's video. And I'm really excited to share 4 mindset shifts, as well as some practical tips for how you can actually start implementing this and start living a life that you can be excited about. So definitely stick around. Hi everyone, welcome back for another episode of Well with Tiff, where I am sharing my own holistic wellness journey in the hopes that I inspire some of you all to pursue your own journeys as well. I'm escaping the matrix. I am totally done with that, and I am embracing a life of authenticity, simplicity, and total wellness, both physically, mentally, spiritually, all aspects of wellness. I want to be able to pursue those freely and easily in my life. And so I'm taking you guys along on that journey. If that all sounds good to you, then definitely feel free to stick around for more, because I'm trying to build a community around this. I want to find the people out there that are also looking for this, seeking to escape the matrix, tired of the hustle and the grind, and feeling like you need to do X, Y, and Z things just to be accomplished and be recognized. If you're seeking to just live the life that's out there waiting for all of us, then please join this community and let's all support and lift each other up. So like I mentioned, in today's episode, we're diving into just how to do exactly all of that. How can you start creating a life that you love and stop living for others? In today's episode, we're going to get into my own personal experience with overcoming living for others, living by people's expectations, people pleasing. And I'm also going to share the 4 mindset shifts that helped me to overcome that. And I'll also share 5 practical tips that you can start implementing today even to start embracing your own authenticity and living for you. So let's go ahead and talk about it. So for my own personal story, I could definitely talk about it forever. I am definitely guilty of people pleasing and just living by others' expectations and living by invisible rules that I created in my head that I thought other people were expecting of me. And I've pretty much lived most of my life like that. And now that I am getting closer and closer to 30, I am finally breaking free from that. And I'm finally living a life that I am truly excited about. I'm very happy with the decisions that I'm making. Every time I'm thinking, what else do I want to do? I am thinking of myself and how I feel about certain things. And if I want to do it, I'm making sure that I'm doing it because I want to do it and not because someone expects me to do it or someone told me to do it. I'm doing things for me. I'm doing things the right way. And it is such a freeing way to live. I say all that to say, like, I fully understand where you're coming from. If you're feeling like your whole life or most of your life or most of your adult life, you've just been making decisions because it's what's expected of you. Familial pressures or even pressures from friends or your coworkers, whatever the case may be. If you're feeling like you're getting to a point where you aren't living for yourself, I just want you to know first and foremost that you're not alone. I only have a few examples that I'm going to share for the purposes of this video, but trust me, there's plenty more that I can get into. So the first example that I want to share is, even dating back from high school, I was always feeling the need to try my best to fit in. In high school, just to paint a little picture, I was definitely more on the nerdier side of the spectrum, if there is a spectrum, as a high school kid, but I was always trying to fit in. I wanted to fit in with the cool kids. Another example is how I used to always texturize my hair growing up. I was always doing that. One, yes, it was making my hair more manageable, but two, it was probably subconsciously because I was trying my hardest to fit in. And so now that I am much older, much wiser, I've come to really love and appreciate myself for who I am. Y'all see I have my little afro now. I've started pursuing the natural hair route, and I did a big chop last year, and I'm really excited to embrace that and just really see my curls for all that they are and what they could be. I can't even tell you how long I was texturizing my hair, but just so you know, I actually didn't even know what my natural curl pattern looked like. So this has all been a surprise to me. So moving on in my examples of living for others, in college, that was eye-opening for me because all throughout college I would go on trying to figure out, okay, what is everybody else doing? Okay, that's what I need to be doing, because I felt like I was starting 10,000 steps behind everyone else. In college, I was a first-generation student, and I had to learn everything from ground zero, whereas it felt like all of my peers were already starting with a baseline of knowledge because they were coming from families of wealth or families in the finance industry, families with experience working in different, companies, and having that background just made me feel like I didn't know where I was starting, what to start with, what to learn, what I didn't know. I didn't know any of that. And so I was just soaking up all the information from whoever I could get this knowledge from. I was trying to fit in and really find my place. And in order to do that, you're going to have to almost mimic what other people are doing just so that you can really figure out, okay, what works for me and how do I move on from here? So in college, I truly was just trying to fit in and imitate and replicate what others were doing just so that I could get to where they were. I was trying to get the same internships. I was trying to study the same things because it seemed like, okay, well, this is what everybody's going to college and doing, so I might as well do it too. That's what I'm here for. I'm here to get a good job and build that wealth and that lifestyle that my family came to the States for. And for me, even though I knew in my heart that I wanted to just do something good and give back to the community, give back to the world, I wanted to do nonprofit type work. That wasn't what was being done around me because my school is so pre-professional. And so I ended up going the finance route. And I was very scared and fearful of even speaking up about what I actually wanted to do because I just figured, well, it's something that I can do 20, 30 years down the line. I don't necessarily need to pursue nonprofit work right now. So I was scared of what others might think. I was scared of falling behind. I was scared of wasting time and money and resources going to a business school when I really wanted to do something else. And so I thought, okay, let me go full in on this business school route and see where that takes me. And that cascades into when I was actually working full time, and I was in that job that I worked so hard for in college, and I absolutely hated it. But again, I felt like, okay, well, I made it up until this point. I might as well keep going, keep doing this track because this is what's expected of me, or this is what I was assuming was expected of me, and I would reap all the benefits at some point. I'd get to live the life I want to live later on. In my work setting especially, that's where people pleasing really came in. I was always the yes girl. I was always down to take on any project because I wanted to keep leveling up. I wanted to keep building my skill sets. I wanted my name to be recognized. I wanted to do all of the things. And so I was always saying yes. And whatever I thought would put me in a good light in that work setting, I was always doing. And so I was constantly people pleasing up until the end when I was wanting to hand in my 2 weeks notice. I was terrified of doing it. I was terrified of going to my boss and telling them that I am quitting and I was stepping away from the role. I was terrified to do that because I was like, oh my gosh, I'm disappointing them. What are they going to do without me? Blah, blah, blah. They could not care less about you. You are replaceable. But in my head at that time, I thought I was literally being a huge disappointment. That's not a normal way to think, and that's not a normal way to go about life. All these examples I shared, again, they are not the total picture. There are countless other stories I could share about me people pleasing and not living for myself and not making decisions for myself. But I thought these were key examples that are honestly relatable. Someone out there that's just making the decisions because, maybe they put themselves on a certain track, and even though they realize halfway down the line that it's not really what they want to do or what's for them, but they're going to keep sticking it out because they are afraid of failure. They are afraid of what their family might think. They're afraid of what their friends might think. That is just not a way to live. So for this next part, I am going to get into those mindset shifts that you need to start making and start thinking about and start reflecting and building on to start living your life for yourself and stop worrying about what other people think, because at the end of the day, does it really matter? No. So one thing that really stuck with me in my therapy sessions was my therapist said, when you get to the end of the road of your life, hypothetically speaking, when you look back on it, are you going to say, wow, it looks like everybody in my life was really enjoying themselves, having a good time. I'm glad they did. Or are you going to want to look back at it and say, wow, I lived life exactly how I wanted to. I did some really amazing things that I wanted to do, things that I was excited about. And are you going to feel satisfied and fulfilled with your life? Let that sink in. That hit me really hard because for my entire life, I was just focused on being on a certain track, thinking that's what's expected of me, and just pushing forward. I wouldn't do anything that I wanted to do until maybe I was in my 40s or 50s. And that is a backwards way to live, because if you just put yourself on one track, you're restricting yourself from trying different things, living life, and just exploring and letting things naturally flow in your lifestyle. And it really made me kind of reflect back on all the decisions I had made up until that point during that therapy session and realize, wow, I didn't even know who I was. I didn't even know what I liked, what I didn't like, what I actually wanted to do, what actually spoke to me, what actually lit up my soul. I didn't know any of those things. So that woke me up and really made me start thinking long and hard about how can I start making changes in my behaviors and how I was thinking so that I could start being excited about my life and the things that I was doing. So with that, here are the 4 main mindset shifts that I think were really beneficial for me in making those changes. So the first mindset shift that you're going to need to make is shifting from external validation to self-trust. So what do I mean by that? You need to stop worrying about what will people think and start worrying about what do you think. That shift is not easy to make, but it kind of requires you to constantly challenge the thoughts that you're having and reflect on what's important to you, what do you think about X, Y, and Z thing that you're reflecting on, and tune out the noise of what you think other people will think. If that's something that keeps coming into your mind, envision it just floating off on a leaf down a river and away from you. Really try to find your own voice and find what's important to you. You have to stop worrying about putting yourself on a pedestal or seeking recognition from others, and you really just have to start finding that recognition from within. If you're constantly worrying about how others will perceive a certain thing, or will this thing move me up in the social ranking, will this thing move me up in society, will this thing move me up here or there, you're not worrying about how you feel about it. And so it's really important to just reflect on that, cut out the external noise, and focus on yourself. What do you think? The second mindset shift you're going to need to make is stop people pleasing and start honoring your own voice. So what I mean by that is stop saying yes to everything. Like I mentioned in my example of me at work, just constantly saying yes to everything, making sure I'm the go-to person. Stop doing that. Think to yourself, if no one's watching, what is it that I truly want to do? How do I want to handle things? What am I thinking, and how do I want to move? How do I want to operate? That's how you need to start thinking. Stop worrying about, I need to do this because this will be seen as good in my family's eyes. This will be seen as good in my friends' eyes. This will be seen as good at work. Yes, you want to do a good job at your work, but don't let it be at the detriment to your well-being. You want to take care of yourself too. And so it's important to find that balance and really figure out what is the perfect amount of doing great, but also doing great for you. The third mindset shift that you're going to need to make is breaking free from the fear of judgment and really starting to live authentically. Find what actually lights your soul up. Find what brings you joy and feel good about doing those things. Feel good about living that way. Don't worry about how people are going to perceive things, if people are going to say something negative to you about whatever it is that you're doing. Because at the end of the day, everyone's going to have their opinions, but all that really matters is your own opinion and how you're living your life. And so you should live it how you want to live it. Fourth mindset shift that you're going to need to make, and it is a hard one, it is getting comfortable with the fear of the unknown. For a lot of us, it's hammered home to have your 10-year plan, have your 20-year plan, whatever the case may be. You have your life mapped out. You have a certain vision of how everything should go, where certain pieces fall into place, yada, yada, yada. But things happen. Life happens. You never know what can change. And so most of the time, you may not be following your plan exactly as you had it laid out. Guess what? That is okay. It is okay to veer off course. It is okay to realize maybe you don't actually want to pursue something like you thought you did. It is okay to change. It is okay to pursue another career, because we all have this life to live. You don't need to feel stuck doing something for the rest of your life if you don't actually enjoy it. You have time to change, especially if you're in your 20s or 30s. You have time to pivot. And so getting comfortable with the fear of the unknown, what's going to happen if I stop pursuing this track? What's my life going to look like? Oh my gosh, I've failed. I can't do this thing anymore. But does that mean that that's it for me? I will be stuck in my parents' house forever, whatever the case may be? No, it does not. Reflect, pick up the pieces, and move on. Figure out what will actually bring you joy. Move down that path. You may realize that you were meant to be on that path all along. Life has a funny way of flowing and introducing opportunities to you at sometimes convenient times and other times not. But you need to be open to receiving those and not be so rigid and stuck on the one path you think you need to be going down. And so the fear of the unknown doesn't necessarily just speak to doing wild things and not being worried about what's going to happen. It just means be open to making changes. Be open to not knowing how those changes will pan out, and knowing that you will be okay. Knowing that you will be okay. That's the underlying thread right there in accepting the fear of the unknown. It's knowing that you will be okay. So, all of that sounds great and all, but how can you actually start practicing these mindset shifts and really getting comfortable with living for yourself and not worrying about what others think? I have 5 practical tips that you could start implementing, and they really helped me really find my own voice, find my authenticity, and start living in that truth. And so I am confident that they will help you too. All right, so the first practical tip for creating a life that you love is getting clear on what you want. How do you do that? So you're going to grab your journal and you're going to start reflecting. Go on Pinterest or Google prompts to help you visualize your dream life, or prompts to get answers on what you want, or prompts to help you find your voice, things like that. And start reflecting on them. Take the time to do this. Don't race through it. Really sit down and reflect. So journaling is really helpful. You'll also want to find a few good self-help books to help you get clear on how to live authentically, how to start living for you and tune out the noise of everyone else. One really good book that I've been reading is The Courage to Be Disliked, so I will link that below. I am forgetting who the author is, but it is a really good book. It's kind of written in a philosophical, it's written philosophically, so keep that in mind. Some may think that that's boring, but I actually really like how the book is structured. It's written from the perspective of a youth talking to a philosopher, and it's literally just their entire dialogue. And it talks you through the whole philosophy of being comfortable with being disliked, aka living life how you want to live it, and stop worrying about what others think. And so I highly recommend that. That book is The Courage to be Disliked. Again, I'll link it down below. But yeah, reading books like that or other self-help books that really help you reframe your mindset. Say, for example, you are working a 9-to-5, you're really grinding it out there, but it's not your passion. You have a passion of creating some business. Start reading entrepreneurship books. Start reading self-help books on building your business or money habits, things like that, to start getting you in that mindset. Because when you are surrounded by people that are just working the 9-to-5 or doing kind of the same things, you are not attuned to the fact that there are other ways to live. So I find reading to be a really good way to expand my mind and help me realize different things that I may not be used to or I may not be thinking about on a day-to-day basis. So I highly recommend that. And then the third thing is just get inspired. That can come from your journaling, that can come from your reading. It can also come from doing research online, finding different resources, things that interest you, trying out different hobbies, trying out new experiences, things like that are going to bring you more exposure to things that you aren't used to, things that aren't normal for you, and to really get you to start dipping your toes in different things to figure out what actually brings you joy. So it's really important to get clear on you, figure out what you like, what you dislike, and then that will help you start embracing those things and start reaching for those things more than, say, reaching for what everybody else is doing. Okay, so that all sounds great and all, to reflect and read and learn and just try to understand what it actually is that you like. But that needs to be paired with seeing and believing. So how do you do that? Well, my second tip is visualizing the life that you want. You can do that through meditating, just getting still and quiet and reflecting on all the things that you wrote about in your journal, all the things that you read about, all the things that you're getting inspired by, and just sit with that. Sit with a clear mind and really just find your voice by meditating, focusing on your breathing, focusing on the different types of thoughts that are coming through your head, letting those float by, noticing them, but not necessarily worrying about them. Just noticing what's coming to mind for you. Also, creating mental pictures. Again, you can do this while sitting in stillness. You can start envisioning that dream life that you always wanted. Envision yourself doing your dream job. Envision yourself living in your dream house. Envision yourself cooking your favorite meals, whatever the case may be. You can create mental pictures for that, and it's actually going to help influence your subconscious and your behaviors moving forward. Because if you can visualize that thing happening for you, you can and will want to make that happen. Now that all sounds great, but the other thing that's going to be really important for visualizing is finding others that are living your dream life, that are making it happen. When you do that, when you start surrounding yourself with people that are doing the things that you want to do, have the behaviors you want to have, are doing the things that bring them joy and living authentically, you are going to be more inclined to want to do those things for yourself. A good example of this is, and I keep referring back to entrepreneurship just because it's a good example. Say, again, you are stuck in the 9-to-5 grind, but you truly hate it. It's not for you. If you are surrounded by all the same people doing those same things, they aren't going to talk very positively about doing entrepreneurship. They are going to be more risk averse and say, like, why would you want to leave the security of this job? Why would you want to go do that thing? You don't know if it's going to fail, blah, blah, blah. that type of talk is not going to help you achieve your goals. But if you start finding communities of new entrepreneurs, beginner entrepreneurs, finding people in your local community who have started a business, things like that. If you start finding those examples in real life and start building up your network and your circle of people doing those things, you will realize it is possible for you. You too can achieve those things. I'm not saying cut off everyone in your life or quit your job immediately. I'm just saying start introing those types of people into your life and your circle so you can start expanding your mind and realizing there are other lifestyles and other possibilities that can happen. You don't have to be stuck on one track for the rest of your life. And also, don't be afraid to reach out too. That was something that held me back a lot, is just, I recognize that it is important to find people in my circle and in my network that are living authentically, doing things that they enjoy. They found their dream career, they're working their dream job, but I was afraid to reach out to them. There were people out there that I knew, and I had to work up the courage to shoot them a message and say, hey, I'd love to catch up and hear what you've been up to. But once you do that, you've opened up a whole new world for yourself. You've put yourself out there, and 9 times out of 10, people are going to be willing to yap about the things that they enjoy. So it doesn't ever hurt to send someone a message. Be comfortable with reaching out. You're not going to be able to build your network if you don't reach out. All right, the third tip is to be comfortable with setting boundaries. That goes for friends, that goes for family, whoever the case may be. If they are bringing negativity into your life when you are trying to do things for you and you're trying to make decisions for yourself, if they're bringing in negativity, telling you don't do this, don't do that, then set a boundary so that you can listen to you. You can find your voice without all the external noise. It is okay to do that. Same thing for structuring your life. If you really need to take time to yourself, do self-care, reflect, meditate, journal, whatever the case may be, but you don't have enough time, start setting boundaries. Don't go out as often. Maybe have at least one night a week where it's to yourself. Try to create boundaries around work. Set a time when you know you're going to log on and you know you're going to log off. That way, the outside hours, you can focus on the things that you want to do. Just be comfortable with doing that, because that's going to allow you more opportunities in your life to do what you want. All right, my fourth tip is to start doing little rebellious things in your life to feel more comfortable with doing the bigger quote unquote rebellious things. What do I mean by that? So I don't mean go and do something wild and crazy that's going to get yourself in trouble. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is whatever invisible rules you're following, whatever expectations you're trying to live by, find those little things that are going to allow you to rebel against those and do what you want to do. For example, say you are living some invisible rule that you need to work out first thing in the morning. That's the only time that makes sense. Nothing else makes sense. That's it. You need to go hard in the gym all the time, go 5-6 days a week and grind it out, and then go to your job, blah, blah, blah. Do the rest of your routine, the rest of your day. Say that's your invisible rule. If you're so rigid, what's going to happen if you wake up one morning and you're not feeling too well? Or what's going to happen when you wake up one morning and the gym's closed? You're going to feel like you completely lost it. You're going to feel like you don't know what to do. Your morning's ruined. Your day's ruined. Everything's bad. Instead, if you start breaking free from that routine, say, for example, you don't even like waking up early, sleep in a little bit. Go to the gym midday or after work. Do little things like that to challenge the routines, things you think that are normal in your life. That way you realize it's okay. The world doesn't end. Life still goes on. You still fit in the things that you want to fit in, and you don't need to be so rigid about it. So that is a good example of just like doing little rebellious things in your life. And then eventually you'll start building up the tolerance to do bigger rebellious things. Say you've always had a dream career that you never thought you could pursue. Well, guess what? You can pursue it and you have the time to do it. So why not? My fifth and final tip is to put yourself first. Always, always, always put yourself first as much as you can. Whenever you're making a decision or thinking about things, stop worrying about everyone else. Just figure out what it is that you actually want to do and then go do it. Don't procrastinate, don't wait on things. Part of manifesting is the actual doing, taking actionable steps to making your dream happen. So just go do it. Yes, you can dream, you can visualize, like my earlier practical tip. You can do all those things, but if you're not actually taking the steps to do it, then your dream life will continue to be a dream life. And we want those dream lives to become realities. So always put yourself first, and that's going to help you make decisions for you. And when you're making decisions for you, you are living authentically. So those are all the mindset shifts and practical tips that I have for you today on how to create a life you love and stop living for others. This is so important. And like I said, I spent most of my life living for others and not making decisions for myself. And when I finally started to do that, I felt so free. Life is precious at the end of the day. It shouldn't be spent doing things that you don't actually care to do, because then you're just wasting life away. You need to be doing things that are actually meant for you, that you actually want to do, because you'll feel more aligned in life. You'll start to notice that opportunities flow freely to you when you live more authentically. And furthermore, you won't live with regret or any resentment towards anyone, and you certainly won't feel burnt out. And when you live authentically, you inspire others to do the same. When people see you living in your truth, living the way you want to live, being happy, being free, doing hobbies that bring you joy, that are different from what everybody else is doing. Maybe you are pursuing your dream career path that is different from what your family did or what your family expected of you. When you start doing things for you and living in your truth, other people take that as a sign that they can also do it. It's possible for them. So you're inspiring others when you do that. So yeah, at the end of the day, life is yours to create. So go ahead and do the things that you want to do and stop worrying about everyone else and what they think. Because at the end of the day, you are the only person that's going to have to live with your choices. And like my therapist said, you do not want to get to the end of the line and think everybody else had fun in your life. You want to have fun in your own life. So with that, I hope this resonated with you. If it did, please feel free to drop your thoughts in the comments below. Share some ways that you have felt like you were living for others, or share ways that you've broken free from that. You know, what's working for you? How are you able to start living authentically? I want to hear it in the comments below so we can all learn from each other. And if this video was very helpful, please share it with someone you think might really resonate and appreciate hearing this advice so that we can help others continue to grow too. All right, with that, I will see you all in the next video. Bye for now.